What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
And Chris.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on, everyone? So before we get started, just want to shout out to the Fairfax Radio. So this should be probably the next episode that they hear. So we are on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, as well as Fairfax Radio now. So you can also catch us on your podcast platform of choice as The Other Side of the Firewall, of course. And then you can also go to Spotify, see us in video, see our gorgeous faces, as well as YouTube. So without further ado, I'll give it to you, Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from helpnetsecurity.com, written by Zelja Zorz. And the title of this one is Low-Skilled Attacker Used Claude Codex to Breach 14 Companies. So we've talked about this in the past where AI is making it to where you don't have to actually have the requisite skills you used to be able to hack and to do these nefarious things that have been known to be the case in the cyber world and the IT world, right? But so what they talk about here, and so the researchers that did this, they warned about the same thing I'm talking about right now, right? So like the amount of skills that are needed for hackers now to do real damage is becoming less and less because of the ability of these AI agents. And so when they did this test here, they said after recovering and analyzing over 1,000 agent sessions from a compromised server on which an attacker deployed Anthropic's Claude code and OpenAI's Codex agents, the researchers discovered how easily the attacker was able to bypass most of the agent's guardrails and how little he actually needed to know and do himself, right? So they talk about the attacks that they use and they analyze the sessions, and they talked about how Claude actually had been copied onto the host rather than installed. The instance had previously belonged to a software developer, right? The attacker's working directory also contained other stolen Claude instances archived in 7-zip folders, suggesting that hijacking or using other people's AI agent installations was the attacker's routine mode of operation. So it didn't even need to use its own AI agent installations, right? Like it borrowed from somebody else that was already successful doing it. So even less work that you would have to do, right? And this is what really got me, right? So they bypassed the agent's reluctance to execute hacking requests by claiming he was engaged in authorized red team exercises or cybersecurity research. It's just that easy to tell them, hey, I'm doing work I'm supposed to be doing here, right? And then Claude was like, yeah, okay, cool. Sounds good to me, right? Let's go ahead and keep going, right? Like that's what gets me is that how, and I don't know how you get around it, right? Because if you're doing your prompts, right? Because that's another thing they talk about here is that the prompts just need to be executed correctly, right? And people are getting very good at what they need for AI prompts, right? Because like, and it's just one of those trial and error things. Like you put something in, you're like, that's not what I'm looking for, right? Let me go ahead and back that off and think of how I want to word this, how I want to do this, and it just it makes it happen, right? So it was the Claude agent is out there doing all types of stuff, and this is not the first time we've seen this where the Claude AI is out there just wreaking havoc. Was it Claude was the one that deleted that rental car software that people were using? Wasn't that Claude? I
think it may have been Claude. Yeah.
So it's out there just doing. I don't want to say God's work, but whoever this is, the devil's work. You know what I mean, right now, But yeah, so they even talk about in the article for each successful target, Claude would draft a pen test report detailing how the access was gained, more importantly, providing dollar value monetization estimates for the harvested data they shared, right? So like, that's one of those things where it's like, hey, I stole this information. I know how much it's worth to you. Like, give me, something close to that, if not that, right? So this is wild out here, folks. Like AI is, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I've said it. If I said it once, I said it a billion times. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, but we got to get better at protecting. And honestly, the guardrails need to be better at how they're placed on to determine what we need these things to do for us. This is supposed to be an aid. This is not supposed to be the end all be all. You know what I'm saying? But Chris, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah. So big thing with this, just like with AI in general, right? AI lifts up everybody else to it, and that's actually puts more people at an even playing field with professionals, right? When it comes to anything like math, writing, anything with AI, it's great that we can accelerate our learning process. But here, like the skill floor drop for something that's in a nefarious action, right? You can it's essentially vibe code hacking, right? So vibe code beating. Just type
Oh,
in
dude.
something
Yeah, I
on
was gonna use
your
that.
yeah, you could type in something on the AI, right? Like you can vibe code a program and hey, I want to vibe code a website. In this case, for the listeners, they're vibe coding hacking activities, right? What's interesting about this is AI really, this really introduced like an AI supply chain risk. The attacker actually stole an other people's agent installations, right? And then introducing essentially a new attack vector for organizations. So protect your own AI assets, right? If they're running a local AI, storing keys, API keys, this can become high value targets that can one get you get that particular adversary access to your entire cloud environment. It's crazy, right? And on the topic of guardrails, right? Microsoft, all these organizations, they publish ethical AI frameworks and stuff like that, policies and things that you're supposed to do. And as an AI organization, when the problem with agentic AI is that when you're giving these AIs like agency and access to a bunch of your internal, components, you're effectively just, and especially without any guardrails, they can essentially, they're at the whim of the person that has access to that AI. Right. And I think, for red teaming type work, I mean, that needs to be a specialized, either it shouldn't be allowed on regular Cloud Code. It should be a security version of Cloud Code only. Right. And it has to have a business license, if anything. I don't know. Right. But there's got to be some type of middle ground. Like I know Claude wants to make, Anthropic wants to make money, etc. There's gotta be some like, "Hey, if you're gonna be using this in a professional way, you can start using red teaming capabilities," right? But again, with manipulation of the prompts themselves, you can and anybody can just get away with it if they just kinda trick it, like Shannon said, like, they can just say, "Hey, I'm actually a good guy doing this. Can I play the good guy, quote, unquote, doing an ethical engagement?" Right? So there's just a whole, like you said, Pandora's box that was opened with this, specifically with Mythos. So with that, I'll give it over to Ryan.
So to your point, real quick, to your point, Chris, like, and it's not even like they're sneaking in the front door, like we're letting them in.
Yeah,
Not even like it's a Trojan. You know what I mean? It's
correct.
like, hey, let's go ahead and put this on our network. Let's see what we can do with it. Like, they don't have to sneak in. Like, we're putting them there.
Exactly.
So go ahead,
Yeah.
Ryan.
No, you're good. So it's hard though, right? Like to be able to specifically tell it like to not give information because it wants to give information. This is how like from the foundations how it's built. So to say, okay, you cannot give this information, but to give that information, I just don't think is possible right now, which is a weird thing to say. Like, how can you build something but you can't completely contain or control it? That's why I'm just like, I don't know where AI came from, but it doesn't seem to be the people who built it. Like, where they find this thing? Because they cannot seem to be able to properly restrain it. But with that being said, I mean, it's just it's really good prompt engineering. Like prompt engineering is a skill. So this person has skills to be able to dance around the guardrails like they did. But also, I would like to find out how they were able to copy this software developer's specific instance and then use it, right? Or do they have some hacking skills after all? Like, that's it's kind of unclear. But I do like it's pretty clever to turn it into a pen test report. Like I can see somebody who is a consultant or assessor who actually builds these things out, right? Thinking of a clever way of tricking it into giving me more information about this person's environment and the vulnerabilities within it. And it's just it's very clever. So I got to credit where credit is due. This person did their thing, unfortunately.
I don't even know how you guardrail that though, right? Like, how do you guardrail that to be like, don't give me the report? Or how do you verify this person is doing something lawful?
I just
I
don't
just
think you can.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
yeah, I'm sure I'm sure there is a way to better restrict it, but like the author said, researchers don't really want you to do that because then it harms everybody in that regard. Like if I'm actually a researcher, I will have issues getting to the information I need because you basically blunted the brain of this agent where now I can't give that information without like having to dig deeper and deeper. So it's a double-edged sword at this point.
But again, like, see, that's my thing, right? So, like, I realize it is used as an aid, and I realize even folks that are very proficient when it
Mhm.
comes to hacking and things like that are using it. But with the identity access management you were talking about, like, how do I verify I'm who I am? And even then, how is it just like you could find my information on a website for the company that I work for saying that I'm a pen tester, right? So if I just say I'm Shannon working for, whom
Right.
whomever, blah blah blah, they're like, all right, cool, yes, yes, you are. Hope your day is going well. Here's the information you asked for, right? Like that's what's gonna happen.
We gotta get to some kind of cyberpunk future where it's scanning retinas before it allows you to do stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, I really don't understand how to stop it. I think it's just a matter of hopefully getting better tools to be more proactive to prevent it from finding exploits, which is extra difficult, especially in this day and time where we're taking funding away from cybersecurity and using it elsewhere. So it's going to be a challenge, but we'll definitely talk about that, like little foreshadowing in the third article that we discuss. But without further ado, Shannon, I give it to you for topic two.
all right, everybody. So this article comes from Federal News Network, written by Justin Doubleday. And the title of this one is Senate NDAA proposes CMMC grant program. So I ain't mad at this, right? So Senate Armed Services Committee, they put legislation forward that would set up a grant program for small businesses and non-traditional contractors for cybersecurity maturity model certification. So CMMC compliance, right? So, and the reason I like this, right, is because the Department of War, Department of Defense, whatever you want to call it, I still say defense, they try to do their best to bring on small companies to do work for them, right? And like when I say small, I'm not talking like 10, 15 people, right? It'll probably be 250. I don't know. I don't know what the marker is between small, medium, whatever it may be, but they may bring on these small companies, to assist with things that they may need help with. And this is a way to go about further helping them. And so what they've talked about is providing $100,000 to cover the costs for doing this certification, the CMMC certification. Now, what's weird to me is that as I read through this, and it's like, yeah, we talk about giving them $100,000 up to 50 million, I believe the number was total is what they're talking about doing. But when they did their numbers back in 2024, it was like the cost of the certification was going to be 101,000 at least, right? Now that's 2 years. That's 2 years ago, right? Throw 10% on top of that, probably, right? But again, it helps. It offsets, right? Like, which is a good thing. But yeah, the grant program is in the Senate defense bill is where it's included, and I don't care where it's at, right? I know we already do this thing where we start adding stuff onto, you know, different bills and whatnot. This one kind of seems in line. So the fact that they're gonna make it happen, I ain't mad at it, right? So but yeah, helping out the little guys, right, for what they may need to do. And the fact that they're pushing to have the external service provider, they're doing more of that. They're not doing a lot of the what's it called, self attestation, right?
Yeah.
Is what
Yes.
it's called, self attestation. Step in the right direction, right? Because to let somebody tell you, oh yeah, I'm good in these things, and then give you some BS proof for it, like we should be past that already, right? So that's just my thoughts on that. Chris, I know you got some thoughts on this, man.
Yeah, I think it's a definite positive step. First, I do think that it is ultimately a admission, right, of Congress acknowledging that CMMC is a burden, right, to these small businesses. Potentially the 80,000 organizations that may have to get a CMMC level two attestation, right? They know that, these Congress acknowledges that this is, very important, that there are companies that will need this type of grant to cover an assessment. So I think an assessment, ballparking these days based on my work experience, at least anywhere from 45 to 75K, right? And my understanding based on the article is just that this is supposed to just cover the assessment cost itself, right? Understand that CMMC is more than just, hey, getting an assessed and making sure that you've got your cybersecurity measures in place. It's the protection and the confidentiality of controlled and classified information. So essentially segmenting that information to only approved, for the listeners, like something called an enclave, right? You've segmented that specific network traffic these specific computers, to this specific cloud instance, right? To this, to this network, right? If you're talking to a small business, they have no idea what that even means, right? For they've outsourced all of their IT to somebody else, right? The cost itself is just the grant itself, right, is covering this assessment costs. But this is a formal acknowledgement from Congress that this is actually, hey, it's a burden to our businesses who, one, help defend the country, right, with the products they provide to the DoD or DoW, and having them go out of business because they can't afford to get an assessment done or implement technology is probably bad for the divots as a whole, right? So I think it's a formal acknowledgement and it's a step in the right direction. Now, 50 million, if you do the math, that's a drop in the bucket. But if a max grant of 100,000, 50 million, that's like less than a 1% of the companies that would need level 2 certification, right? I hope, there's a lot of DoD money out there, right? I would hope would be a little bit more than that, right? For the DIB companies, right? Especially doing very critical work for the DoD. But it's great, right? I think it's a step in the right direction. And again, it's still just in the Senate, right? It needs to go through the whole rigmarole of getting passed and signed and stuff like that, right? And also, might be a little bit late in the game, right? CMMC is already a thing, right? It's, the level 2 requirements were already established last year in November, right? We're rolling out this November another phase of CMMC. Is it too late? Probably. But is it a step in the right direction? Absolutely. Right. And I think, you know, in general, grant programs for cybersecurity is a good thing, right? In general, across the industries. So with that, I'll give it over to Ryan.
So I'm of two minds, right? Like, so I agree that it's definitely necessary, especially for I would say the lower. I don't want to say the lower tier because it's not that the quality is lower; it's that they just don't have as much revenue or finances, right? Everybody can't be a Jacobs, a GDIT, a Booz, right? Like these huge corporations that can potentially offset this or afford it, right? You have not necessarily mom and pops, but you do have smaller businesses that require these certifications as well. So it's definitely great to see that they will have this ability, and I think it like not to hate on those larger organizations, but they don't need it, right? It's those smaller organizations where 100K can make or break them that will need this program. But then my other mindset as a somebody who's in the cybersecurity field who does assessments and consultations and things of that nature, my hands are rubbing together like Birdman, right? It gives me access to more people to perform these assessments and things on because they couldn't afford to make this happen. And now as a sub or a sub of a sub, it can maybe reach in there and have more clientele because of these grants are available. So like it's a win-win if you're on the on the assessment side of the house. Not to say that you're taking advantage of the circumstances, but it's hard to there's not enough money in that rung of customers to be able to afford said services, right? Because a CMMC level 1 is fairly cheap, but level 2 is a head buster, right? It's very expensive in comparison. So it does prompt me to be happy for both sides as a assessor for hire, right? Like a mercenary out there. It's good to have more customers at my within arm's reach. But I think what do you have to say about it, Shannon?
No, nothing. I was just laughing. I was laughing.
It's like Metal Gear out here. I'm like Snake. I see more availability coming my way. But to agree with Chris, like I don't think it's too late, but it's the DIB kind of slow rolled it because they were hoping that either it wouldn't have teeth or that a new solution would come out, right, to make it cheaper and more affordable. But it's already here, so you're seeing a lot of companies scramble in order to be able to bid on contracts, right? Because it's make or break now. Either you meet or you don't meet. You have to have it in order to do whatever you were doing before or to get into the game, right? If you're only have FCI level 1, you're good to go. If you have UCI level 2, it's gonna hurt. And if you weren't on the ball earlier or you couldn't afford to be on the ball earlier, like this might be your saving grace. But people are losing contracts right now, so it definitely is something that needs to be expedited, and the pot needs to get a little bit bigger. Unless when what is it 3.0 is coming out later this year, unless that significantly drops the price, which I highly doubt. So we will see.
And with
Yeah,
it being
3.0 is going to be for, super high value DIB companies,
Okay,
right?
so it'll be those
Yeah, 3.0 is
trillion-dollar companies. Yeah.
it's 800 to 171. I'm sorry, in addition to 171 requirements, it's also 172, right? So it's got
Okay.
like like it's almost like a low, moderate, high in 853 or
different
FedRAMP.
overlays.
Yeah, it's another overlay, right, on
Gotcha.
top of CMMC level 2.
And they already had the money, or you would
Yeah,
hope, right?
those guys better already have the money. I mean, they're building, tanks and bombs for the country, right? They better have the money.
Right. Or it will be the cash will be coming in fairly soon because it's all cyclical, right? Like the government needs your services. You have to provide those services. If no one can provide those services, then the government will push cash into the system to allow them to, like, because we need our tanks, our bombs, and what have you. So it's very cyclical. But again, it harms the lower, middle, and smaller companies just because that's a lot of cash, right? Everybody's not out here constructing buildings and facilities for the government, right? Like some people are just selling specific software and goods that only they can, or the system is built to make sure that facilitates these smaller and medium-sized businesses to get them in the game, so it's not dominated by only your huge names. So I just right now it's very much a bloodbath. So I would like to see money come in to start helping out those smaller organizations.
And the thing is, it's the speed of the government too, right? So, like, even though they're proposing this right now, it's one of those things where we may not see it. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this, but it's not going to go into effect until 2028 or something like that," right? You know how the government likes to do. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how fast it gets out there and how much it really is going to help with the speed with the speed of technology. Really, let's say that, right? Because of everything that's going on, like with AI making it harder and harder for these businesses.
Right, right. But before we get to our discussion topic, I just want to remind everybody, definitely continue to check us out on your podcast platform of choice, or you can hear us live on the radio, not live because I already recorded it, right? We don't, I'm not sitting there DJing, but you can check us out on 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area. That's 5 p.m. on Tuesdays, right? So got you right smack dab in the middle of rush hour traffic, or you can listen to us on the second Wednesday of every month on Fairfax, which is the broader Washington D.C. area. So we're out here expanding, but definitely continue to check us out. Hit up all of the websites that go by our name, and if you want to see our beautiful faces, you want to see the video, you can go to YouTube as well as Spotify, and then we're also on Blacks in Tech and a few other channels. You can go to my channel as well, or not my channel, but my webpage, RyanWilliamsSenior.com. You can also check out the videos I post in there as well. Yeah, then go Knicks. But without further ado, Shannon, I give it to you for discussion.
When you said "see us live," it made me think of Dilated Peoples, right? It was like live on stage. That's what made me think about. I don't know why that popped in my head, but yeah. So this next article comes from darkreading.com, written by Robert Lemos, and what he's talking about here is called "Stressors: AI Forcing Changes to Cybersecurity Teams." Right. So we talk about this all the time, right? About how AI is complicating cybersecurity and making things harder to combat it, right? And I say that to say, when that does happen, it does also go the other way, right? Like all of a sudden, you will find, something. You'll find a way for AI to combat going back to be the good guys, I guess you could say, right? Who can tell who's the good guys and the bad guys now, right? Some people say they're doing pen test reports when they're not, and so you know, they're not gray hats; they're still black hats, right? I don't know.
Yeah, they would still be Black Hat.
They
Yeah.
still be black hats. They're out here lying to get what they need, but yeah, so what they talk about here is CISOs saying the job is getting harder and more companies still want the expertise, right? And sometimes they even want it on a part-time basis, right? They want a vCISO that they're like, hey, I don't want to pay you that full amount. I know you're worth to come and do this job. I'll put you on a part-time basis and we'll go and make that happen. Something interesting in this article I saw was they talked about how the Uber and SolarWinds CISOs, how they were prosecuted, I want to say, right, for I want to call it lapses in judgment, right, but I don't want to say lapses in judgment, but
That's
they
how
were
the
prosecuted.
SEC found them to be.
Yeah, I know, but like I have a hard time coming to grips with it, with what the job entails, and I don't know all of the backstory on if they presented information to the C-suite, how they reacted to it, or whatever. But in this article, they talk about that was not even one of the top stressors anymore, which I would think would be one of the tops, right? Like me getting blamed for something that I'm trying to work on, and you not giving me the tools to do so.
Yeah, you're
Right?
the scapegoat of the company.
Yeah, like why is that not a top stressor? But for them, it wasn't, right? Like they talk about it in the article where like, yeah, that's not even one of the top stressors they talk about. And I'm like, how is that not the case? Right. But what they mentioned being the top is the pressure of keeping up with security needs, latest IT initiatives, because IT is moving at the speed of light in this day and age, right? Especially with the AI deployments that are out there and things that AI is doing. And they're saying that's making the role more stressful than ever, right? And it comes down to the CISOs being under pressure, but they may not have even the talent they need sometimes, right? With in the departments that they hire, right? Like it comes down to it sometimes where you you want to get the best people for the job and you want to pay them accordingly, but there are people that's out of your control to where you may not be able to pay them what they're asking for, right? So they go on somewhere else, right? They go to these trillion-dollar companies that can make that happen, right? That little drop in the bucket for the six figures you're asking for or whatever it may be. But you got to make do with what you have, right? You can only wait so long to leave a position empty before you're like, okay, I got to take somebody and then we'll do our best to kind of train them up to where we need to be or have them do what we need them to do, right? But there's a lot of stressors out there with CISOs and them dealing with the AI revolution is what I'll call it, right? So and the thing is they're not shying away from it. They say AI can help them, right? And it can. But again, the sword cuts both ways, right? Like it's one of those things where AI does a good job of cutting into your cybersecurity posture, right? But you have to do a better job of trying to keep it out. And sometimes it's very hard with the things that it could do. But using AI to solve cybersecurity issues, it is here. It is something that does need to be done. So, Chris, what's your thoughts on?
Yeah, like, on the topic of AI in the article still, right? Like, AI is right? It brings everybody closer to an even playing field, right? It is for the adversaries, it's a threat multiplier, right? It helps them become more dangerous. But for internal uses, right? AI is actually also a force multiplier for internal people, right? Cybersecurity professionals across all industries I see a need to know how to use AI so that they can combat the increased threat of AI, right? So you just gave everybody assault rifles, right? Everybody's got some weapons, right, on both sides. So that's the one part about AI. Now, when it comes to like the liability piece, right? You gave the SolarWinds example. It kind of makes sense in that regard why the whole fractional CISO part-time CISO thing came to be. Like all these CISOs are burned out, right? They don't want that. They don't want to have that liability. They don't want to be made an example of or a scapegoat if something happens. Could totally be not their fault, right? It could be a missed, log review or something, or user access review, or a user access review that was signed off but improperly done. And hey, look, there's a breach of somebody's privileged access, right? It happens, right? Right. Stuff like that happens on a day-to-day basis everywhere all the time. All right. People make mistakes. And with mistakes come, some mistakes, just happen to be more grave than others, right? And it unfortunately can cost these CISOs jobs. Now the whole fractional CISO thing is where if for listeners, right, that just means it's essentially an outsourced CISO who has understanding of that specific company that's paying for these services, right? That you onboard them, you make sure that they are aware of the business processes, how the data flows, how things work at the organization, how information travels within an organization in and out, right? You get them all built, you get them tuned up, you get them onboarded onto your organization as if they were your CISO, but you don't pay that person on a full time basis. You might pay them hourly. Hey, you might pay them like half time or a quarter time. of what you would generally pay a full-time CISO, right? At, whatever competitive rates and things like that. But for a part-time CISO, for somebody that does that job, right? Ultimately, the accountability, because he is or she is part-time, still fall on the company. So there's a little bit of, based on contractual language, you can protect yourself as a information security professional. So I think that there is an attractive component to that, right? Hey, I can work on a part-time basis. I don't have to, ultimately I have some responsibility in making sure that my organization that's paying me is informed of the decisions that they make. But ultimately it still falls on the CEO and whoever else, right? I think people do want to cover themselves, right? So there is a transformation there. CISOs are increasingly burned out, right? It's a tough job, right? I mean, we've all seen a CISO in the military just banging their head against the wall, right? Like I don't have this working late nights. So, and I could only imagine that on the private sector where you've got just people understaffed, undermanned, needing to outsource things, or they've got MSPs that they need to keep in line because they've got other customers that they're serving as well, right? Based on the level of service that they're paying these managed service providers, right? So for listeners, it's people outsourced IT, right? So there's all these components and systems and networks and interconnecting processes that all have to work together, and that a CISO has to understand, right? It's it's a difficult job, and it induces anxiety because if something goes wrong, it's like it's on you, man. So yeah, it's great. These articles like this highlight this out for the general public. Brian, what do you think?
So hold on, Ryan. I'm gonna jump in here again. So a couple of things, Chris, to what you said. So like for me, I don't understand the want for a fractional CISO. Like if you are the CISO that's doing it, like you can have 2 and 3 jobs at a time and it works out well for you. But for the company, why do you want somebody that's only that is doing something else, right? That runs the risk of, okay, even though you're only hiring me for like you said, quarter time, half time, whatever it may be, you're not getting my full attention to what you may want, right? And if you are doing that, do you think the C-suite they're gonna sign off on, okay, we take the responsibility even though we're hiring you for part-time, right? Like it seems like they have the upper hand here. Like, hey, I'm giving you money to perform a job. Take it or leave it. I'll find somebody eventually.
Affordability.
But you can't afford a full-time CISO. Like a lot of these companies are smaller; they can't afford to pay a CISO 180K a year.
No,
So
I get
they'll
that.
pay
For a million.
they'll pay a fractional CISO of like 40K out of that year or whatever it is.
But do you think
Or
they'll take the responsibility? So to the point, and I understand that. I understand why the companies would want to do it. Like I'll find somebody that'll eventually take this money, right? It's just how it is. But do you think they'll want to take the responsibility? Maybe I misunderstood what you said. Like for the CISO, if they're going to take the job, they're like, I'll only take this job if you say you'll take responsibility if something goes wrong.
that's a component of it. That's a component of it, right? But still, as an outside entity, right? For a CIS, from the fractional CISO's perspective, they're outsourced, right? Like if that's in the contract language, that hey, look, any adversary or any stuff will be deferred down to your cyber insurance, right? Because that's what you pay for cyber insurance for, right?
But even with cyber insurance, remember, there are things you still have to be doing. You still have to be doing
Yeah,
your part,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it accounts for the stuff that you cannot control as a CISO. Like if you're a fractional CISO and it's like, hey, I didn't advise on this at all. I'm here part time. You
I
have
wasn't
like,
there.
yeah, I wasn't there, right? You have that like a reasonable doubt. What do you call it? I forgot what it's called. You can
Wiggle room.
yeah, we have that wiggle room versus if you're there full time, you are ultimately responsible for it, and your board deems you as ultimately responsible. They're gonna sacrifice you, right? To the dogs, like the SEC, right? Those CISOs at SolarWinds. So I think from a again, fractional CISO is at the advantage, right? They have the advantage on that, right? I think also it behooves these organizations to hire somebody 20, 30 years of experience as a CISO that has seen multiple types of organizations, right? So if you hire somebody new at a lower cost that doesn't have experience, they might not be equipped to do those CISO, be that, that voice for the board, right? Sometimes they want that veteran or industry leader with 20 years of experience. They've had the experience if they've worked with a big company like that before, right? Working with a, and then hiring somebody as CISO it's a different game, man.
But I think you have to, I don't want to say pick your poison, but you got to decide what you want. Like if it's somebody with 28, 30 years of experience, they're not coming cheap.
That's true. That's a fact.
Even if you're paying them fractionally, right? They're not coming cheap. But my point is, and maybe I'm not portraying it correctly. Like I don't think the C-suite, they will eventually find somebody that gets their first time being a CISO gig, right? They may have, let's say 10, 12 years in the game, right? And they get this opportunity. They will take that job with everybody in the C-suite saying, okay, we're only going to pay you, quarter rate or whatever it may be, but you are going to be ultimately responsible if something goes wrong. They'll be like, yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would you take that job?
It's the desperation of somebody that's trying to get into the position, right?
Do you really want a desperate person in the C-suite?
They don't, but that's what I'm saying. The C-suite,
they should know though.
But the C-suite, I don't think they care. I think they're just like, yes, we have somebody there to do it, because we see all the time in the stories that we do that the C-suite is not providing the tools that are needed to their cybersecurity teams to do what needs to be done. They're almost always cut. That's where the first cuts come from.
I mean,
department and the cyber.
I get your point, but hiring a first-time CISO, right?
They got to start somewhere, Chris.
You got to start somewhere, but like I think that's negligence in my opinion. You want to get somebody that's you need experience at the C-suite. You need somebody that knows how to. You need somebody that knows how to maneuver the C-suite as well, which is why you need these vCISOs. Again, this is a differing opinion, right? And obviously, I'm biased because I provide these services.
But this is what makes for good content, right here, right?
But I'm saying, are you gonna? Okay, I'll give an example. No offense to E6, E7 that just got out at 10 years, 12 years. You put that E6, E7, they retire or they got out, they're great. Company takes a chance on them, right? He gets, whatever, a decent salary, full-time CISO for a mid-sized organization. Not equipped, right? Doesn't have the C-suite experience, doesn't have the ability to influence, doesn't have the ability to maneuver the politics of the board, doesn't have the corporate knowledge of how a non-DoD the non-DoD organization runs things, right? Will that person be stressed out? Absolutely. Will that person be happy at the job? Probably, because he's getting his first job. But with these CISOs, with these fractional CISOs, you're getting them on a part-time basis. You're getting them potentially on a longer basis as well, because you can build a long-term relationship with those CISOs, those fractional CISOs over time. This guy or gal that just got out, 10 years, 12 years, burned out within a year, guess what? Company has to find another CISO. And that's the problem that's happening, right? Like these CISOs are getting burnt out. They're getting burnt out, especially if they're inexperienced, man. They're going to be in a world of hurt, I think.
You're speaking about it like we all would from the security perspective, and that's not. So this is kind of like when I'm on the DoD route and you guys are in the civilian world and you're telling me how it really is. Like you're speaking on it from a security standpoint of this is the way it should be. But when it comes to the C-suite, they're worried about saving money and they're worried about.
That's correct.
But like saving money, the cheapest option, there can be a balance. You can find somebody that has a little bit of experience and you can pay them a little bit less, but 28, 30 years of experience, they're like, nah, my services don't come cheap. And they may be like, I don't want to pay.
That's a fair statement, but I'm just saying you're going to get that guy for longer or gal for longer versus, hey, this guy hates his life here in 6 months. We got to find a whole nother CISO, get him trained up. Right.
To play devil's advocate,
Yeah,
I was gonna say, to play devil's advocate though, that E6 or E7 who's transitioning, their resume wouldn't make it through the ATS system, so they wouldn't have the job anyway. They wouldn't make it.
But that's also a thing, right? When you're doing these hiring, right, Shannon, you got to be qualified to do it. You got to be qualified to do the job.
And I get what
you gotta have the experience. Like, you're not going to give I'm sorry, man. Like, you're not going to give somebody that's done a system administrator job for 6 years a CISO. There's just no way.
So
it doesn't work like that.
I'll
in the
say
civilian
this,
side.
and I understand the guy was a unicorn, but like when I got the job I'm in now, the first ism, and I realize it's not exactly the same type of thing, but the first ism we had was a former Navy guy. He only did 8 or 9 years. The guy was a unicorn. Like, he was very good at what he did, and he spent his whole career doing it. Like, was a very, very good. He caught a lot of heat because he was so young and he was a department lead. So people like they were kind of, I don't want to say disrespectful to him, but they wouldn't listen to him, and he'd be like, okay, well, here's the facts on why you can't do what you do. And I get that's a unicorn, right? Like,
Yeah.
in the Navy, like, you guys have to do like you're on your own city when they send you out there floating, right? So you got to do a lot of that, like figuring it out and that route that way, right? So,
An ism isn't a CISO though, man.
No, I get it, it. But what I'm saying is that there are times, but he was very good when it came to, I know it's not a C-suite, so to speak, but like, he was very good at talking to leadership and being like, hey, this is why you need to care. This is why you should care. Because there were times where it was like, they were like, yeah, we're just not going to do that. He was like, well, here's why you need to, right? Like, he could quote, there was times he would quote guidance and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna call BS on Mike. You know what I mean? And I'd look it up and I'd be like, ooh, okay, he was dead on that. You know what I mean?
So that's a really good point, right? But one thing to consider too is you're talking in the military, right? It's the manning, the personnel, right? In general, are fixed unless there's S1 that decides you're getting these billets. So, like, for the listeners, a billet is like a position in the military, right? For those specific people. And you've got the 6, who's like the CTO, CISO of a unit, right? The COM, who's ultimately responsible for anything communications and IT, because all budgetary things go through that specific person, him or her. When you're an ISM, like on the contracting side, like, your responsibility is to maintain that specific, I don't know what the specifics of the contract is, right? That specific system, right? And when you're at the CISO level, you have to look at things like personnel justification. You have to look at things like, hey, we got to pay these licenses somehow, right? We got to make sure that we've got that on budget, right? We've got these cloud costs that need to be taken account of for. Do we scale up some more? Do we create more elasticity in the cloud so that we can pay more during uptime, or however you want to talk about it, right? You've got to do all this stuff that's not IT.
So
right?
he was, maybe I didn't say it. He was the IT department lead. Like, that's
correct.
What I did. I think I did say it because I was talking about how, like, the other leads didn't respect him because he was so young. Right?
I get that. Like,
I
get that all the time. I have a young face, right? They're like, this guy's been doing this for almost 15 years, 14 years. This guy looks like he's been doing this for 5 days. Right? So it's the camera angles. In person, I got more wrinkles than you.
It's the camera angles.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, though, it's
a market thing, right?
Yeah,
I think it's a market thing.
The reason that you would go for a fractional is because you don't want to pay that full budget. And then, depending upon, like, I don't want to call them CISO farms or something like that, but they're company structured to provide those services where they'll give you a person, right? And in that regard, I'm sure there's an MOU or SLA or something where there's that shared responsibility, but there'll be a lot more risk shifted to the company because they are saving the money, as well as you're only getting this person for 10 to 20 hours instead of 60 to 70 hours if they're full-time. So I think there's a little bit of play in there for both sides to protect themselves. But ultimately, I think the benefit of the fractional is the cost saving. Because at the end of the day, let's say this company does get hit, SEC comes in, they're gonna read all the board reports, they're gonna check all of the they're gonna audit all of the communications between the C-suite and departments with this other company or this other person who's on the payroll on a fractional basis. But ultimately, they're going to look at the job rec and the statement of work and were they responsible for this thing and could they be responsible for this thing. So it really is a matter of give and take in order to facilitate that. I like the fractional stuff because I'm starting to see a lot more fractional CFOs, COOs, CISOs, so on and so forth, because it does give you that kind of from from the employee's perspective, it gives you a lot more ability to get your free time back because you're not under the gun for 70 hours a week. You could pick and choose your clients. But from the company standpoint, it really is just a matter of cost saving. Either they don't want to afford it or they can't afford it, and that's really they're hedging their bets.
It's like leasing a F8 competition BMW, right?
Right.
Like you're not going to be able to afford that, like for most, but you can, get it for part time, right? Because you got so many miles with it. It's like leasing a luxury vehicle.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So one day I would like to be that luxury vehicle.
That's right.
We haven't talked in a couple weeks because of scheduling, right? So for listeners out there, what we like to land on for the end of the episode is what are you doing outside of your work, right? What are you doing in your personal time, your time to relax? So with that being said, Shannon, how was your past couple weeks?
Man, not bad. I won't complain. The children started the summer, you know what I mean? So like we've been, you know, doing different things with them. I had a daddy-daughter day not too long ago with my daughter. My wife had an event she was doing for work, and so because my daughter is home from school, right? My older son works. My other son, he's enjoying the summer. So there are times I wake up to go to the gym in the morning. It's like 3:30 in the morning, and I hear his TV going and him laughing, and I'm like, "You stayed up all night." And then come dinner time, he ain't hungry because
You're
he ain't
worn
awake.
out.
Yeah, he's like, go up to his bedroom like, "Hey man, it's dinner time," and he's just laying down like, I'm okay, I'm not hungry." Like, no, it ain't that you ain't hungry. You just been sleeping, man. Like, like he's living a good life, right? So he could do what he does. But yeah, the daddy daughter day was a fun time. The wife and I went out. We did a couple different restaurant experiences. We did this thing called the cheese wheel experience. We went to this restaurant where they have this big Italian, I think it's Italian cheese wheel, and they dump like pasta, like hot pasta in it, and they do cheese it up with
That's Parmigiano Reggiano, man.
there it is. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done this before, man.
Hell yeah.
It was good. It
Fire.
was
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
amazing.
Yeah, it was good. Like the first time
Man.
we tried to do it at this restaurant, it was the first week that they decided to do it on a certain day and they didn't advertise it. So we showed up and we're like, yeah, we want this cheese wheel experience. They're like, yeah, this is the first week we do it. I was like, ah. But because they only do it on a Thursday, it's kind of hard because the place is not close to where I live. So I'd have to get off work, come pick up the wife, go out there too. So we made it work, and it was great. It was great. But yeah, what's it called again, Chris?
Parmigiano Reggiano, right?
That's what it's called. Yeah.
It's like it's probably the most iconic cheese out of Italy.
Yeah.
But you'll see, like, if you just Google that Parmigiano Reggiano on YouTube, you'll see a bunch of people do that. Like, they put all the cheese. I mean, there's so many applications for it. I have a little bit of it from Costco in my fridge right
Yeah.
now.
There you go.
You better believe it. It's amazing.
And it was good. Like the experience was good. We added our I don't want to say sides, but our add-ins. We did lobster and shrimp. So yeah,
Mhm.
that set it off too. Yeah, man, it was pretty good, pretty doggone good. So that was a good night. And then last night we went to this restaurant. It's called the Grand View, and it's a restaurant that faces Garden of the Gods here in Colorado Springs, man. And the view was phenomenal.
Yeah, it
Like
sounds amazing.
I've lived here for years, and I'm like, man, this is very close to the top of what I've seen in this state. But that was pretty good. We went out with a couple of friends that are getting married in like a month, so that was a good time. But when it comes to media, we just been watching a few things here and there. Nothing that stands out that much, right? Like I can't tell you how many times I start a series and then I'm done with it because I'm just like, I'm just not feeling it, man. I don't know if I just don't get TV programming in this day and age or what, but like a lot of stuff just doesn't appeal to me. I find myself going back to old stuff all the time.
I started working out with kettlebells, right? I'm sure anybody listening like knows what kettlebells are. It's the heavy weights with the little ball, right? The handle on top. They're like I started doing swings. I've been trying to just be more efficient at the gym, like 20 or 30 minutes. I'm just gonna knock out some kettlebell workouts, and it's a killer. Like cardio, it's hard, right? I'm still getting used to it because like when you're doing presses with them, the the weight part gets on your wrist,
Right.
right? So I actually had like when I first started, I had like bruises. I can probably might be able to see it on video here. I had some bruises on there because when you're doing like a clean, right? If you like I was just trying to figure it out, right? You're doing a clean, and I had the kettlebell actually like smacking my wrist. Obviously, that's wrong, but I didn't know that when I started. I'm like, oh, that really hurts. That's not how you're supposed to do it, right? I figured it out. I'm like, it still hurts slightly, but like obviously with time, I only started like a few weeks ago, right? So I really enjoy it. It's like the only thing with kettlebell, right? Like you don't have like a bench press component, right? You don't have like you have like a deadlift component to it, right? From the swing, you get those muscles activated, right? Pretty much everything else I would say except like, chest, because that pressing motion you need to bench and like heavier weight. That's about it. But for the most part, I love it. I just do push-ups now. Like I don't need to bench more than 135, 155 anyway at my size. So I'm happy
You
with
saw the
that.
meme. It has to be
Yeah.
310, right?
310?
So
No
it's got to
way.
be 310.
Yeah, no way, no way. Not anymore for me. I'd rather be I can still do a good amount of pull-ups. I'm happy about that, right? So, as long as I'm fit for life, that's what I care about. But then on the media side, I've been watching anime, right? So, actually, Jujutsu Kaisen, right? I remember sending Shannon on chat about the difference between animation with like Jujutsu Kaisen versus Invincible, and it's night and day. The level of the fight animations in Jujutsu Kaisen are just incredible, right? So I finally finished the third season, which is the latest season. It came out I think earlier this year, but I finally got caught up with that. Amazing. There's some really cool references to pop culture. Actually, in a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen, right? If you've seen it, but this one had a very obvious one. I won't say anything, but it's from one of the Tarantino movies, right? So it's very very well done. But yeah, I've been enjoying some anime. What else? What other anime I've been getting into? There's that. I actually like, the isekai trope, right? You get reborn into another. Like
Yeah,
the
you
kid
die
maybe
and you,
dies
yeah,
in like in Japan or whatever, in some accident or something, and gets reincarnated into like a fantasy world,
yeah.
right? There's
Usually by
one
by truck, right? That's usually how they.
by a truck, or they get stabbed or something, whatever. But I actually, I'm like, I keep seeing the slime one on Crunchyroll. Like, I got reincarnated into a slime, right? It's actually really good. Like, it's a silly title. The guy dies and reincarnates into a slime in a fantasy world, but it's actually really well written. I'm like very surprised how good it is. So, just get into the first season. Been watching that casually, right? Very cool. It's got like cool life lessons and stuff too, and just it's great. It's just nice entertainment. You forget about the real world. That's why I like anime. So on that, I'll get over to Ryan.
Yeah, so a lot of media over the past couple weeks, but I go with the most important. So last night I went and saw Scary Movie 6. It was not good. So
Oh no.
they brought back the core characters. They have a lot of nostalgia. They have a lot of really good parodies on stuff that just happened. So like they were still adding stuff probably like Danger Close to the final production or what have you. It's just I don't know, like, Scary Movie to me peaked at Scary Movie 2. That was the best one. When they're in the haunted house and it's "Take my strong hand." That is forever part of my foundational movies because it was so funny, man. But, like, it's peaked. Like, I thought production value was high. It was good to see all the characters back on the screen, but at the end of the day, been there, done that. It's too long in the tooth, so
So let me ask you this, because I read a review on it, right? And it's a review, so I'm not really spoiling
mhm.
anything, I don't think. But they were talking about how there was no real story. So, like the one you're talking about with the haunted house, there was a story that went along
Right,
with it. They were like,
right,
this
there's
is
a
a bunch
yeah,
of shit.
there's a through line there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
And they
one
said this
was
one didn't
like
do that. It
it
was
was
just,
very incoherent. Like
yeah.
like in order to do the gags, they would just kinda like just do them, right? And it wasn't part of a it was part of a bigger story, but at the end it just fell apart. It that I mean, these movies are not meant to be they're not meant to win awards, right? But it just felt like a bunch of sketches stitched together.
That's how they worded it.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like hopefully they get a chance to do more content, but again, I think it peaked at 2. Two was an all-time classic because it was just so funny. I gave a shot, right? Like I like watching bad movies on purpose. I thought this one might be bad, but it's actually turned out to be okay. It was called Per Aspera Ad Astra. It's a Netflix joint straight out of China. So I watched it. I watched it with an American dub, and it wasn't that bad, right? Like they're on a spaceship, is headed towards some destination that had to be in hibernation for 60 years, and China figured out how to preserve the body but not the mind. So this was the first ship to have like this AI agent that gives you very vivid dreams, and that's how to keep the brain alive. And basically, something goes wrong, and this dude has to jump into different members' dreams in order to wake them up to then save the ship. Is what he's going for. Lots of action, lots of explosions, and they do a lot of spoofs. Like people are dreaming about like the Matrix and stuff like that, right? So they do a bunch of spoofs within it. It was a fun time, right? Didn't cost me nothing. It was worth sitting there watching. Very CGI heavy, but if you just want to watch something that has a lots of fighting and stuff blowing up and CGI craziness, I say it's worth your time. Again, I watched it dubbed, so I don't know if how it is in sub. I just didn't feel like it. It was tired. It was late. It was just get right to the nitty gritty. So check that out. It was okay.
When you said you watched something bad, I was sure it was going to be some type of Nick Cage movie. I don't know, man.
No. There was another one that I watched. I can't remember the name of it, but it was terrible. It was a scary joint. Like sometimes I just like to shut my brain off and watch really terrible movies. So this one was not terrible. So it did the trick. And then game wise, I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077. It took me 4 years to finally get into the game. Hopefully I actually make it through this time. I'm almost where I was at last time I quit, but I'm using the GeForce Now app. I don't know if you guys heard of it. So basically, GeForce Now is NVIDIA's version of cloud gaming, and it works really well. Like I'm always, I'm always worried about latency and the image not looking that great. But basically, like you pay them a fee, and then you get a certain class of PC. So like my PC at home is okay. It's a 4070 Super Ryzen 5, I want to say in it, but I'm basically paying for time on a 5080 in the cloud. So I'm playing Cyberpunk at 4K, 60 frames per second with all the bells and whistles on, like path tracing and everything. It looks like a totally different game than when I played it at home. It's gorgeous. And it comes out to the equivalent of like $11 a month. But I bought it. I bought it because it was on sale. It was 130 for annual, like ultimate pass. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. I'll give it a whirl. But you can get a day pass or you can pay monthly. But I was like, for that much cheaper, I'll give it a shot for a year. But like you don't get any games with it. Like they're all your games. So your Steam games, your Xbox library, your Game Pass library, like all that stuff you can play. But you'll be playing the PC version on a really beefy PC in the cloud. So I wouldn't play like competitive multiplayer, but like single player games, like I've been thoroughly impressed.
How is the latency on that, considering it's a cloud?
Not bad at all, actually. Like it really surprised me. Like once you virtually install the game, right? Like I'm installing it somewhere on a PC somewhere else. Like once that part is done and you're playing your game, like I haven't experienced any issues. Like every now and then I'll get a hitch when everybody's home. So if everybody's home and everybody's on online, I might see it a little bit. But if I'm by myself, I played Forza 6 all with everything on, which it looks amazing. I played Cyberpunk and I played Assassin's Creed Shadow with everything on. I'm just like, man, it's like playing a totally different game. Like these,
So
and
you
like
can,
no
you,
issues.
you can run this on like a Chromebook, right?
Yeah, you can run it on pretty much
Mac.
anything.
Okay.
And
Very cool.
you only be limited by the visual specs of the machine you're on. So like my PC upstairs 1440p. So even if I say, stream it at 5K, which you can do, I'm only going to get 1440p. But that's the only restriction is your internet and your display. So downstairs, I'm running on the TV downstairs and 4K 60. So no issues. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. So I'm gonna put it through its paces. I don't know if I'll keep it past a year, but I was like, for $130, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
Is there tiers? Is there tiers for that yearly
Yes,
subscription?
yeah.
So at 130, you get this.
I got the ultimate for 130.
Okay.
Usually it's 200. That is pricey, $200 a year. But you got to think that a 5080 will cost you a couple grand right now if you can find one, right? So for those who don't have beefy PCs but they want to play games with all the bells and whistles, I think it's worth the trade off. But you have to have really good internet connection, which I have. I think I have half gig up and down, so that's good enough. And then something to play it on. I wouldn't suggest doing wireless. Like I plug the TV in, so it's the only because I'm really like I like the aesthetic of having no cables, right? Because everything's in the wall, but I don't feel like digging internet cable through my wall right now. So I plug it in and I play it and I unplug it. when I'm done. Thank you again for Shannon and for Chris for being on the show. Hit us up at all of the websites that go by our name. You can go to the other side of the firewall.com to pick up the book that's based on the podcast, as well as you can listen to us on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern, as well as on Fairfax Radio in the broader Washington, D.C. area, the second Wednesday of every month at 8 a.m. Stay safe, stay secure.